In this video, I want to talk to you about how pain begets pain and what you can do about that. So stay tuned. In most of the situations in which someone acts to hurt you in some fashion, and sometimes it can be through an act they've done that kind of ignores your feelings, sometimes it can be through an intentional attack, but whatever it is that's going on, almost all the time, it's coming from some sense of pain on the part of the attacker. And this happens in the most egregious situations. It happens in like minor slights. I see it in my work all the time. I see these custody fights where somebody starts lashing out at the other side, and the automatic impulse is always to just start lashing back. So you see somebody that gets attacked and they just want to attack back and stop this other person from hurting them. First, let's look at the kind of dynamic of what's going on and what's happening here. So when you have somebody that is in pain and they start receiving an attack, they feel even more pain. And this pain is going to exist in all sorts of different circumstances. You can see it in the most heinous of situations. I'll give you an example. If you look at, say, a child molester, somebody doesn't get up one day and say, you know what, I want to go wreck some child's life and become the thing that my society most despises, and I'm going to go molest a little kid. People don't get up and do that. The reason that they're in that mode in the first place, that they even think that that's remotely acceptable, is because they're somehow really screwed up to begin with. There was something going on. They were probably molested themselves when they were little, and this doesn't justify it. I'm not saying it's okay to go out and molest children or anything of that nature, but what I'm looking at is the dynamic of why they're doing that thing in the first place. It's coming from pain. They have been injured, and that has shaped what they have become. Look at a more extreme example. Think of Nazi Germany. When you look at what the Nazis did to the Jewish community, I mean, they killed and tortured and put people into the most heinous of conditions, millions of people. And that by no means was okay. But where did that come from? It was coming out of a place of fear and financial tensions and all these different things that people were reacting to in Germany that caused them to start blaming someone else and attacking and doing horrible things to these other people. Again, I'm not saying this is okay. I'm not saying it's okay to go, take an entire race of people and then put them into concentration camps and brutally murder them and, deprive them of rights and all of that sort of thing. Nor am I saying it's okay to go and molest little children as a child molester. But if you look at the dynamic, this is all coming from a place of pain. Now think about this for a second, moving on to the next step here. What happens if somebody's coming from a place of pain, they're reacting out of that pain, and you start attacking them even more? They're now going to hurt even more, which is going to cause them to act out in even more pain. So the normal dynamic, if you start to lash out at somebody that is in pain in some fashion or is doing something that is attacking you out of a place of pain, is that you're going to amplify their attack, or they're going to do some sort of negative behavior that's somehow going to amplify the problem. So before you do anything else, if you are the recipient of an attack or some injury of some sort that's coming out of someone else's pain, the first thing you need to do is stop yourself from lashing back at that person. Don't just immediately try to attack them, condemn them. And I am not saying that you should be willing to put up with anything. Going back to the World War II example, the Jewish community should not have been like, okay, well, we're getting slaughtered by the millions, whatever. You should still be erecting boundaries to make sure that you are safe. But what I'm saying is, if you, before doing anything else, say, okay, why is this person coming from this place? And then look at it from that perspective, that's going to change the analysis, and it's going to change your reaction to what's going on. You're going to come from a place of understanding and not from a place of retaliation, and that will alter the dynamic that you have with this person or people or whatever it is you're interacting with going forward. It could even be yourself. Second major piece of this equation is, if you are the one that is in pain, that is to say, if you have some sort of dysfunction that is causing you to injure someone else, either by way of inadvertently doing something or directly attacking someone, then you have to be willing to recognize what's going on in yourself. If you are finding yourself attacking anyone in any way or injuring someone in some way through something that you know is not right, then you need to be able to look inwards and destroy that part of yourself. You have to be willing to make some changes and confront the pain that you are facing and understand what it is that is causing you to do this. Because if you can't do that, then no matter how this other person reacts, it's just gonna get worse. Or at a bare minimum, the problem is gonna continue to exist. When child molesters get discovered, what happens? They not only get thrown in prison, but they have a whole society condemning them. And if people in prison find out that they're child molesters, they get like horribly treated or very often murdered while they're in prison. What happened with Nazi Germany? They have become the symbol of evil for generations now. And we have movies out and people think of them as evil incarnate. And every sci-fi show I've ever seen had, like, think for example of Raiders of the Lost Ark, we use Nazis as the symbol of everything that is terrible. On top of that, we had the whole world coming down on them in the midst of a war, which they lost. So these things erupt, they come out in some fashion if you don't fix the problem. And if that's the situation, you need to be willing to confront it, and you need to be willing to make some changes based on that. And more importantly, you need to be able to kill the part of yourself and the set of behavioral responses that are at play that created that pain in the first place. If you have not already done this, please check out my website, which has all sorts of additional resources. It is www.embuffination.com. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is Emotional Embuffination. Thanks.